Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and welcome back to Fourth and Goal. It is Rivalry Week, the best week of the college football season. And just like you guys are probably going to be served up some really nice food come this Thursday, Rivalry Week is serving us up some amazing matchups that we're going to go over. But before we talk about the games, we're going to talk about some stuff happening in college football that is just catching everyone's attention. You know how you show up to, I don't know, your grandmother or your grandfather's, or maybe your own place on Thanksgiving, and there's just something new. There's a new dish out there, and you're like, hey, what's that? Oh man, you ignore all the regular stuff that you usually see on Thanksgiving, no matter how great it is. There's a new dish, and you're just fascinated with what that could or could not be. The same thing's going on in college football right now, but it's Lane Kiffin absolutely stealing the show. Every program in America wants him to coach there, and Ole Miss really does not want him to coach anywhere else other than at Ole Miss. So, Lane has gone about this in about the most Lane Kiffin way you could imagine. They're tracking airplanes, they're seeing his family look for housing in Baton Rouge and Gainesville. It's crazy times in college football, and he's got a game to play on Friday, and his team is essentially in the playoff at this point. I mean, I don't know how they wouldn't be even if they do lose to Mississippi State, because they have a great win over Oklahoma, another good win over Tennessee. Their only loss was to what is right now the number 4 team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs, and they were beating Georgia by 2 scores in Georgia's own building going into the fourth quarter. So, Ole Miss is essentially a playoff lock. Lane Kiffin, man, the signs are showing that he's not going to be staying, which is... It's in one sense it's a little crazy, considering it seems like he's had a change of heart at Oxford, and or at least he's been saying that he's wanted to stay there and that he loves being there. And maybe he does, but maybe, just maybe, he loves the thrill of going to a big time program like an LSU or a Florida or a Penn State and trying to achieve at the highest level there. Now, don't get this mixed up. Some people are saying that because Ole Miss is making the playoffs, that means that you can win a title there. I don't think that's how it works. I think you need to recalibrate what you think of the playoff. This 12-team playoff, there are going to be teams in it every single year that cannot win a national championship. That's just the nature of college football. Last year, there was only one team in it that could win a college football championship, and that was Ohio State, because they were just going to eviscerate everyone else in there. I mean, it was just... what they were doing to people was just brutal. They were just like hacking them to pieces. They were running them over. It was ugly. Could we see something similar again this year? And if we do, maybe it's the same Ohio State team. Maybe it's Georgia. They piece everything together at the right time. Do you think a team like that is something that Ole Miss is capable of beating? I don't think so, because as good of a team Ole Miss is, there's still talent differences in college football, and Ole Miss is not going to be the most talented team in that playoff. Unfortunately, over a long stretch of games, that comes back to bite you. So I don't think Lane Kiffin can win a championship at Ole Miss. Maybe he can at LSU. Maybe he can at Florida. It really looks like that's what's got his attention right now, though. I'll tell you what. Absolutely. I think he's leaving. I know lots of people are talking about LSU. I would lean towards Florida. I think that's a more Lane thing to do, but we'll see. We'll probably see by Saturday, if I'm being honest. So we went over the exciting new dish that has everyone's attention, but what is the main meal at Thanksgiving? What is that one thing that you can always count on being there, the one thing that really is going to set the tone for the rest of the meal? It's the turkey. The turkey always in Thanksgiving, or I believe anyway, the turkey sets the tone for the rest of the meal. If you've got a bad turkey on Thanksgiving, it's going to be a bad Thanksgiving. Well, in college football, at least nowadays, I think that's Ohio State and Michigan. For about 4 or 5 years now, Ohio State and Michigan has been just the biggest game on Rivalry Week. Everyone's eyes have gone there, and every single time Michigan has found some crazy new way to somehow beat Ohio State, despite the odds seemingly being stacked against them. And we have that here. Both teams are ranked, which is different from last year, but hey, Michigan still won. On paper, Ohio State has been the most dominant team in college football. I don't think that's a stretch to say. I think the only game that they played that has been within 1 score, maybe even 2 scores, was the Texas game, which was a season-opening game, early kickoff, you're breaking in a new quarterback, and you still won and largely controlled that game. But other than that, Ohio State has seemed pretty much invincible. They have a top-notch passing game. Julian Sain is the Heisman frontrunner right now. Their wide receiving core is the best in the country. Their defense has been just they just been destroying people. It's been crazy to watch. I don't think anyone scored more than 16 on them or something like that. That's just the cap that you're going to have to hit, I think, against this defense, or at least that's the way it seemed. Michigan has had only 2 losses this year, but they were both pretty bad losses. They lost handily to Oklahoma early on in the season, and USC, of all teams in the Big Ten to really just beat you at the line of scrimmage and run you over, USC did it to Michigan. So Michigan looks a bit different than they have in the past few years. Their whole offense, they are trying to center it around the run game, which is usual, but the run game for Michigan is different than it has been in years past. In years past, they have relied on some excellent tailbacks, and they have an excellent tailback in Justice Haynes. But they also have a running quarterback now, a running quarterback that can be a competent passer, unlike some of the players they had last year. Bryce Underwood, the quarterback, highest recruit from, I want to say the last year's cycle. Last year's cycle, he was the highest rated recruit, dynamic athlete, can throw the ball a mile, can run a mile. He can do everything that you would want a quarterback to do. He hasn't done it consistently yet this year, which is why Michigan has looked a little this year. They've had some good wins, don't get me wrong, but those 2 losses were bad losses. And so, big picture doesn't look like it sets up well for Michigan. But it didn't last year either. Last year's Michigan team was worse. Last year, Ohio State was, I would say, probably on par with what they've looked like this year. I think they've had a bit of an easier schedule this year than they had last year, so that's why you see like a bigger gap in the scoring outputs. I think this is going to be a game, though. I don't know how, because nothing about this sounds like it's going to be a game unless you look at the model. The model is so interesting. The model, it's not saying it's going to be super close, but still putting it within a score. And I think at Michigan, with that team, this is the one thing they want to do. They want to ruin Ohio State's season again. And until further notice, I'm just going to say they're going to do it. I think the number 1 team in the country goes down this weekend. I think Michigan's going to beat them. I think it's going to be crazy. I don't know how they're going to do it. Probably a lot of turnover. Look, probably some big plays by Justice Haynes and Bryce Underwood. And I think Ohio State just hasn't been in a position like they're going to be in this weekend. And I think that's going to hurt them. And then we got some conversation about how the seeding in the playoffs is going to look like. But Michigan beats Ohio State. And that's the leadoff game for Rivalry Week. That's the turkey, the big thing. And that will be, if Michigan beats Ohio State, setting up for a great week. So you got the new dish set out there. You got the turkey set out for Thanksgiving. It's all looking good so far. Most people that I talk to, when I talk to them about Thanksgiving meals, they'll mention, the turkey, so there's some exciting new stuff. But there's this one side dish. For some people, it's mac and cheese. For some people, it's green bean casserole. There's this one side dish that they just absolutely love. It's fantastic. It means a lot to them. It's kind of set apart from the other ones. And to me, this week, I think that's Texas and Texas A&M. A&M is undefeated. They are 11-0, shockingly, because all they've done for the past few years is go 8-4. So I can't even call them Texas 8-4 anymore. They're Texas A&M, doggone it. And they're going into Texas in prime contention for the SEC title game, for the college football playoff, and a national championship. This team has the talent level to do it, but this is a big test because Texas, I think they're out of the running for everything this year. I do. But that's still a talented team. That's still an offense that's slowly beginning to find themselves. Arch Manning isn't looking completely incompetent, which that's a low bar to clear, but he is no longer just throwing passes in the dirt on out routes and all of that. So it looks like a competent offense right now, aside from the running game, but we don't talk about that. So what is going to determine this game? I think both of these teams have the potential for explosive plays, especially on the opposing defense. A&M, their defense is good, not great. They've given up a lot of high-scoring outputs, most notably the South Carolina game a couple weeks ago. Texas, same deal with secondary. That secondary has been prone to giving up a lot of yards for several weeks in a row now. I think it was Mississippi State did it, then Vanderbilt did it, then Georgia did it. I just think that's what that defense is, and I think this late in the season, last game of the regular season, it's too late to change anything. So that's what they are. They do have a good run defense, though. And that's where this game gets a little tricky because A&M, you got Marcel Reed, you got Casey Concepcion, you got all that air power, all that, passing game, explosivity. But that offense, they go through the run because that tailback room is as dynamic as any in the country. And that has really what's been able to keep them in games. A&M, they may do some weird things, like they'll have a close game against Auburn, they'll almost lose to South Carolina. But the threat of that rushing attack puts such a high floor on this team. It's going to take like a Herculean effort from even the best teams to take down Texas A&M because they have probably the most dependable ground game in the country. I know Ahmad Hardy is at Missouri, and he's probably the best individual tailback in the country. I'm sticking with A&M. That running back room as a whole, I don't think you're going to find something like that. And then you also got to defend Marcel Reed running the ball. So there's that on top of it. So Texas's run defense has its work cut out for them. It's at Texas. Let's see what the model says. Model is picking Texas A&M by a little bit. I think that's probably the safe bet. I think that while this is probably the most talented opponent they've played, although they did play Florida and absolutely just like squish Florida, like you drop a green bean on the ground during Thanksgiving, someone steps on it, it's just like, it's gross, it's slimy, it's everywhere, it's getting on everyone's shoes. That is what A&M did to Florida, and Florida beat Texas. So, I know that's probably a one-off game, according to like predictive analysis, like our model. I still think it means something. I think A&M's high floor means something, even going into a hostile environment like Texas, and I think they're going to win. I think that that'll seal the deal for them being in the SEC title game. I don't know if they'll win the SEC title game. I think they're going to it, though. So give me Texas A&M over Texas. The Aggies beat the Longhorns in their own building, and Texas, the season after being the preseason number one, just an absolute wash. Embarrassing. Humiliating. Like you're bringing your date over to Thanksgiving and your uncle starts talking politics. That's what this season has been for Texas. So this rivalry week, it's shaping up to look like a pretty good Thanksgiving meal. You got the nice new dish in Lane Kiffin. He's playing Mississippi State, but he's also probably going to Florida or LSU, and everyone's talking about it. It's got everyone's attention. You got the turkey in Ohio State and Michigan. I think Michigan's going to win it. I think it's going to set a great tone for the rest of the day. You got Texas and Texas A&M, a storied rivalry that I think is going to be an explosive matchup. But Thanksgiving and rivalry week both come to an end. And it ends with a dessert, usually a good one at that. And we have got a great game ending rivalry week. The Iron Bowl. Alabama is going to Auburn at night. So this matchup does look very poor for Alabama, but what's the model saying? Stats and Info, can you help us out? Show us what the model is saying for the Iron Bowl and what we can expect to see in this football game.
Hi everyone, happy Thanksgiving, happy rivalry week. Man, this one's shaping up to be a real doozy of a Saturday. We got big games left and right, and just about none of them are bigger than this year's Iron Bowl. There is a lot on the line there. So, let me pull up the model real quick. Just been looking at the Iron Bowl, and you see we got a pretty semi-tight game. It's a one-score game. So what I'm seeing here from the model is that Alabama is essentially gonna get theirs on offense. So why I say that is Alabama has been averaging about 31, 32 points per game overall. As of late, when they're playing decent defenses, it's been closer to 27 or 24. Model saying Alabama's going to get about 29 right here. So, pretty productive day for them on offense. What it's saying there is Auburn's passing defense is just so horrible that despite the fact that their front seven could cause some havoc for Ty Simpson, maybe force him into bad mistakes, it's saying Alabama is still going to be able, despite all that trouble, to score a good amount of points. And then on the other side, you got Auburn scoring about 21, 22 points, and that's with home field advantage baked in. So what it's saying there is that Auburn is going to be the more balanced offense, but it's going to be less explosive. There's going to be less big plays, maybe less third down conversions. And with that, when you're facing this Alabama defense, the most important thing that you need to do is you need to be explosive. Because if you just go on these long, grinding drives, they're going to get you into the red zone and then they're going to clamp down on you, like I clamped down into a turkey leg on Thanksgiving. And they're just not going to let you, or I say like I do, I haven't had Thanksgiving in years ever since I started working for the show because they don't let me eat, until this model starts predicting 100% of games correct. But like I said, Alabama's defense, excellent at lulling you into a false sense of security, like eating too many mashed potatoes on Thanksgiving. You feel that false sense of security, these potatoes, they won't make me throw up or feel sick later. And then you get to the red zone, and that pass defense, it's no use trying to break off long runs because the defense is so compact, you can't really go anywhere, and then you're stuck settling for a field goal. And so Alabama's defense, a lot like Thanksgiving mashed potatoes, they just creep up on you. You find yourself you eating too much, you took too much time eating mashed potatoes, and you're like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to throw up. Or, well, at least that's why I think eating Thanksgiving mashed potatoes is like. I wouldn't know. But yeah, so picking Alabama to win, but I will say, the caveat here is if I think Auburn is going to force at least one turnover. If they can force multiple bad mistakes like Oklahoma did, then this model's prediction is essentially worthless because then it is certainly anybody's ball game. So they're picking Alabama to win the Iron Bowl, but it's still a dangerous matchup for this team because we can't know for sure. Excuse me. We don't know for sure if Alabama's passing game is going to be in sync finally for the first time in about a month. We just don't know. So it's tough to really trust the model's prediction for the Iron Bowl, but we'll see. I guess that's why they play the games.
So that's all the football we've got for today. And before I go, I just want to address some stuff that I've been hearing. People have been saying I need to go back to Dr. Pepper, need to stop promoting Pop-Tarts. I'm not doing it, okay? Just because I took the X's... Jeez. My bad. Just because I took the X's off the two Dr. Pepper things in this room does not mean that I'm back on good terms with Dr. Pepper, okay? I waited years and years and years for them to sponsor me after just doing everything I could to promote them. So, I do not care for Dr. Pepper anymore, okay? I promise, it's not changing. We are a Pop-Tart show now, and it's going to stay that way. But, I could just... It's not wrong to, have one Dr. Pepper. I'm not like I'm promoting them or anything. Oh, wow, that's good.